What are we
All
doing
right,
now?
we are going to be talking about why we got into Vanguard and why we stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh for the most part.
Alright, so
Who wants to start?
probably the Yu-Gi-Oh veteran. Which I mean the guy's been playing it longer than I have.
Well, the guess is, well, I've been playing since 2002, so
I gave up for a while because
I guess I'll start then.
yeah.
Well, I used to love Yu-Gi-Oh a lot. I mean, it was the first card game that I actually played for the sake of playing instead of just to collect cards, unlike, Pokemon and what have you. But in recent years, especially last year, they've been going way too far with things like wanting money, I guess is the proper way to say it.
Here's the thing. The meta deck that everyone, even children, are going after for was valued at around $1,000 actually.
Uh,
Ten of it. And it's
I
prime.
guess at the time it was pretty up there.
Yeah. I guess.
But no, the main thing that I knew that there was a problem was when the Insectors and the what are they called, windups came out.
Yeah.
And around when the ban list was coming out. But they've been going. They were pretty good even before then, before they came here, and people were using them a lot for the few months that they were around. But because of how much they were dominating, the logical step would be some of their stuff would be limited or banned or something, right? But that's not what happened.
Yeah, they just decided to hub smash Plant Synchro when it was already on its way down in terms of tournament trends.
Yep. So as a result of that, they let out Insectors and windups to basically dominate the tournament scene much longer than they should have been. And for one reason, because they wanted to make money. Even though that kind of defeats the purpose of a ban list, which is to keep that sort of stuff in check.
My main issue was that they killed Plant Synchro, which is like the only thing I ever loved.
And Zector was the first deck the first legitimate deck I ever had. And I gave up on it because it was like, I was just playing with friends and not doing anything competitive. It's like, alright, well, there's like summons, that stuff. I'm like, Dragonfly, it's like, okay. Hornet, and I'm like, okay, right, then I just keep on doing the normal grind, and then it just felt stupid.
Yeah, but no, bear in mind, that's not the main reason why I stopped. That's just one of the reasons. Another thing that happened in the last few years was the, notorious 2012 reprint season. Where, how many reprints that was again last year? Like 6 or 7?
Royal Mega Pack.
Before that, we had the GX Dual Academy Years pack.
Oh,
the raw yellow pack that was basically a reprint of that. The gold series, of course, but still reprints that I have to count it. What the heck was that other thing? The Yugi's set thing. They got like 6 tins announced during that year, outside of the usual 4. Any other things you can think of, Elliot?
I'd rather not.
You rather not, Elliot?
Nah. It's nice that you want to make things more affordable and generally I lost my train of thought.
Just like make it
And
easier
alright,
for
and fix up text. That was a huge problem, but at the same
At the
time,
same time, the way they went about it was wrong.
You kind of went too fast,
What they
especially
should-
like with Battle Pack because.
Oh yeah, Battle Pack is another one.
Totally worth it, right, guys?
Yeah, with that all one card in there that was worth anything.
And then it got reprinted.
And then it got reprinted again
About
anyway?
a few months right after.
Which is another thing that they did a lot of during that year. They would make something, usually exclusive or a promo, and then a few months later they'd either have it ready for someone to get out of a tin or something, or it was at least announced.
yeah.
Which especially hurt something like Shonen Jump Alpha. Well, at the time it was Shonen Jump Alpha, because really that was the primary reason to go there. was to get the cards, because unless you were devoted enough to just pay anyway to see the stuff 2 weeks 2 weeks later than everybody else, there wasn't really a reason to get it other than the cards, which included things like Shockmaster and Slifer the Skydragon and what have you. But then, guess what they made, Elliot? Guess what they announced to come out? A few months.
Shockmaster?
Yeah, Shockmaster. Reprint, like, it was announced like a month or two after it was released to Shonen Jump Alpha members. And even before that, Acid Golem was also released in a 10 or something for
special edition.
Special edition. There you go.
I have no clue what to do right now.
Within the same year that it came out to monthly Shonen Jump members as one of the last issues.
Yeah, that was like the one issue I wanted to get because Acid Golem was like a neat card.
And
Frank 3 was like the easiest to make.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're going to do that sort of stuff, why even make the good cards promos? If you're just going to reprint them anyway, it defeats the purpose of them being promos. Because they're just going to come back anyway.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, outside of that, there's the obvious reasons why anyone would not want to play. I mean, the rules in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, over complicated. And I know there's some of you thinking that it's not the case. Well, that it is the
Remember
case.
your
Deal with it.
little application for a judge at the YCS? It looked like a research paper for a university in Harvard.
Because there are so many steps and so many rules about how those steps work and how timing works within those steps.
It's an exact science, but the cards making the rules is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to like understand all of them. Most like the staple cards doing what they do, especially like Ryo.
And I can get that. I can get how having a lot of different things in there can let things like traps and counter traps and all that stuff work off each other and make the game feel exciting. But the thing is, it's not actually exciting. It just
It's
feels.
mostly just sitting there and saying no.
Yeah, it's basically what it really is. So it feels more exciting than it actually is. And while some people might find that's enough, we really don't. We like
It's
to.
not that there aren't moments.
Yeah, it's not that there's not moments. It's just that.
They require you to play stupid rather than like you normally would.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I was like, I was kind of done with the theme of lockdown because one of the first decks one of our friends used against me was his Herald deck. So we opened Herald, Christia, and Set Roll Decree. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing that kind of got on my nerves over time, was the fact that if your opponent opened the right hand, they basically won in the first turn. Not necessarily OTK style, I mean they got you locked down and you could not hope to catch up if you got anything other than the perfect hand yourself.
What was that? The heavy list format right before March?
I think
Oh, yeah, that
it
was when
yeah.
Trunade came back, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't actually hate that format, but it was kind of one-sided.
It was very one-sided.
Yeah, I forgot what I did with it exactly. It was like, oh, that's right. I would always play swords, and afterwards I'd play Trunade to replay swords. Something like that.
Yeah. I guess all in all, it kind of got out of hand. And I know there were other card games we could have gone to, but the thing is,
This one was
Is
the
the
new one.
new
We
one?
were interested in it before, you know.
and that, and also the other card games weren't exactly.
Yeah,
Appealing.
Pokemon was on its way down the crapper.
Magic
just never appealed
just
to
never,
us at all.
never was very appealing to us.
There
for a
wasn't
lot of the
really anything
same-
else on the market.
Yeah, and they were for a lot of the same reasons why Yu-Gi-Oh isn't very appealing to us anymore.
I might have jumped on Kaijudo if it showed up sooner, just because I sort of liked Duel Masters.
But yeah, all in all, this one was the more recent one. a lot more ironed out than a lot of the other card games around. And it's always a weird thing with it. People always when they don't know what any of the rules are, I think this game is like super complicated. I don't know why. It's not that hard.
It's a matter of math and just, sorry for quoting GX, but playing your cards right.
But yeah, I mean, it's not really much to it. I mean, the basic part is just assemble your forces and then have them wage war on your opponent's forces.
Which sometimes when I'm playing or when I'm watching other people play, I'm already 3 steps ahead of them. I know what they should be doing this turn and what they're going to set up next turn.
Yeah. And now I know that sounds like it's too easy to people who barely grasp rules, but just because the base rules are easy doesn't mean actually playing it is.
There's always a matter of decision making that can have whatever levels of outcomes.
You have to have a grasp of making decisions and knowing when the right time is to hit the right unit or block the right things.
Momentum and all these other very small things that are more subtle than they seem to be.
Yeah, so like anyone can sit down and play this game. It's not hard to get the idea how the rules work. But you can't just go in and think, all I have to do is hit the Vanguard a bunch of times with my stuff and I'll eventually win. You have to...
That's what they want you to believe.
That's what they want you to believe, but there is a subtlety to it. You do have to think when you play this game. And I know that's how that sounds, but no, that's really what it is. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just throw things on the field and just say, I'm going to just attack the Vanguard a bunch of times and I'll just win like that. That might work for Gold Paladins, but it doesn't work for the other decks. And yeah, I mean, anyone can play this game too. It's also very cheap. I mean, heck, the deck here, the Gold Paladin one, I think the only thing I spent any money on for it was one of the grade 3s right there, and it cost me $10.
The rest of the deck was literally hand-me-downs.
Yep, people just didn't want the rest of the things because they're commons and rares and junk. And I just made it out of that. And remember, this is the deck that I took the tournament with. Because that's just how easy the Gold Paladins are. And because that's all you really need is the proper amount of triggers and ratios for your 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Again, I'm kind of going against a deck that's more aggressive, a bit more expensive, but then again, this deck can still have its wins if I even have any
Even
rules.
Kagero isn't expensive, so to speak.
The most expensive decks in this game don't reach much higher than maybe 200.
Yeah, and that itself is a Yu-Gi-Oh deck.
Oh, that's like a standard
That's
Yu-Gi-Oh
like your
deck.
extra deck.
Yeah, it's like just your extra deck alone in
extra.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Just those 15 cards in Yu-Gi-Oh cost about as much as one full deck in this game. And I know there are some people out there who for some reason think that because the game is cheaper it's not as good, but shut up. A more expensive game does not mean a better game. It means a way to spend more money.
Who wants that?
Yeah. I remember having people use their expensive ass decks against me in Yu-Gi-Oh! And after using Inzectors, I used the Photon Sanctuary deck. With Angel 07, they couldn't do anything.
Oh, I know that feeling. I mean, Ellie remembers the time when I took the Ultimate Warrior deck to the tournament. Isn't that around the time when Vikings were on the way up, but they were still good enough that they could actually play? Everyone I fought there, Black Wings and all the other kind of decks out there,
You can't stop it.
they couldn't stop it because Bergzak was 2,800 instantly because I had both cards in my hand and Bushi in the graveyard with the help of Foolish Burial or Armageddon Knight. And yeah, no one could stop it at the time.
I remember the last time I played in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Local. The day before, all of us got together and built Hyper Chaos.
Yep, Hyper Chaos.
Oh yeah, that.
We just sort of built that on the fly, and the next day I played it and took it to top 8 and lost to a top deck Miracle Fusion. I hit him by the balls!
Yeah, which is what it really comes down to in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is top decking and stacking can beat even the most autopilot deck.
I've done the silly things of.
Hey, I made Samurai Guy really, really mad.
Yeah, he did make it.
Elector, solving of
It sounds so good.
Yeah, some people
Yeah,
get so angry that they eat cards.
He got
oh,
so mad, he got his prize pack and literally ate
And
the rare.
Which was actually another thing that I like about this game that I don't get to see. I have to see in other games.
Yeah.
Is the amount of seriousness that people, not just in Yu-Gi-Oh, but also things like Magic, where they just get so serious over their freaking game.
The first competitive place I've been to was the Vanguard regional, and everyone was so chill. I met someone who was into Persona. We just had little idle conversations here and there.
Yeah. The first real tournament, I was just there, like we were just making jokes with our opponents. I mean, we were just having fun. But at the Yu-Gi-Oh regionals and YCS's various things, everyone's so straight-faced there.
Yeah,
You can't even like look at someone funny without them getting an attitude with you.
Yeah, there is some levels of sack in this game, especially like crits.
But it's
Eleanor,
anticipated
yeah.
in this game. It's
and if
part of the structure.
Yeah, if it happens, it is what it is. Just.
But as far as Yu-Gi-Oh regionals go, I think he could tell you more about that.
Yeah.
Because he being a judge at them.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe I don't want.
well, if you say so, Elliot. And then Magic Oil. I mean, I can understand why people are super serious in that, considering cash prizes for their things and all, but it's a little too intense for me when I can just play this and go to the regionals for free.
Yeah, this game is a lot more casual.
More casual and therefore a lot more fun because there's not as much riding on the game. Quite the faces you guys are making.
Because again,
Pelennor.
first time Rabbit's doing things. Oh, hold on a second, I got that first. So this guy got 15,000 extra power.
Yeah.
For 31 with 2 critical attack on him, buddy. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well,
Again.
Stop right now.
Yeah, like the levels of Sakiru that just happen right here. Like I just took this so casually.
like, yeah, it happened, but it's like whatever.
Yeah, just criticals in here.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people have their own opinions about the other games too, but all I'm gonna say is more and more people are dropping out of those games in the last few years at a much faster rate. I've just seen so many people, especially people that we used to play with Yu-Gi-Oh with a lot, have just stopped playing card games altogether.
Maybe it's the age bracket.
I don't know. Possibility, but then on the other hand, we've seen, at least in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic Game, a lot of people in their 30s playing that game. So I don't know about that, because the people we've seen dropping out of them are usually younger than us. You know, that surprises you, Elliot.
Oh yeah.
People that are in their teens actually play card games.
I remember like when we saw pictures of some regionals and like it was there was this one kid, won the child bracket of regionals, and it was like he gets a Blood Memphis, and he was like he was a kid, just holding like a Kamehameha for some reason. He's like, I would beat this child. Even though it sounds incredibly terrible, but kids will be kids.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've seen like some mature people.
We surprisingly haven't heard much from this guy over here. I know you got your image to protect, Elliot, but you got anything to say?
About what?
About why you went from Yu-Gi-Oh! To this game, Elliot?
Well, I already went over it. It was pretty simple.
Yeah.
I murdered the thing I loved.
Is that it, Elliot?
Pretty much.
Is that the only thing that kept you in that game to begin with?
Also, there's also like other things with Yu-Gi-Oh, like how sets are made. It's essentially shiny archetypes and a whole bunch of commons and rares that no one care about except for me. Do you know what a double lance is?
Nope. Even after reading it 3 times.
Yeah, I was into like cards like that, just like cheap stuff that's fun.
But really? That was the only thing keeping you in Yu-Gi-Oh? It was just that one
I
deck?
guess it wasn't just that, but
You also had Infernities.
it was the closest thing I had to something that was, really competitive at the time. And it just made it abundantly clear to me that I would never be able to get a deck together before it got cycled out.
There's something to talk about right there. Cycling out
like,
stuff.
Like I said earlier, the sets in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like, you most likely just play the archetype cards and they'll use like the commons or others and whatnot. With Vanguard, you've just got clans. Most of the cards are really good. So no matter what you pull, you'll most likely get your money's worth for it. Any clan you don't need, just trade it, sell it off.
Yeah. Trading in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an absolute nightmare.
Oh god, yes. I would know too, because nearing the end of my primary playing of the game, that's what I mostly did whenever I went to regionals or anywhere, was I went around the dual terminals, because surprisingly that is a really good place to find people to trade with.
You could not find a single person who was not trying to rip you in the process.
And the cards I'm looking for are hipster cards that no one knows what it is or have it.
Yeah, if people weren't trying to rip you off on trades or something, man, they would get in your face to make you just give them something that you didn't want to get rid of.
Yeah, my last trades with Yu-Gi-Oh! Was, again, at the Vanguard Regional, because, people were in that transitional stage from card games. And what I got was an Avenging Knight, Parasith, and Guardian of Order. Again, self-proclaimed tipster and whatnot.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, and like,
Okay then.
it wasn't too.
No, it's spilled.
It wasn't too bad. Like, what's it called? Like with trades with Vanguard and whatnot, we're just trying to like calculate price and value, and that's about it. For Yu-Gi-Oh, again, you had to like when you got to pull the Blackluster Soldier from that gold pack you got for judging, you sold off for $20 when it clearly wasn't.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the one that we got was like I think a $30-something card, but because he didn't care, but also the people we were trying to were like kind of card sharks, so they would refuse to buy or trade for it unless it was like super low, and he needed the money at the time, so we had no choice but to go for the low.
I did that again just recently with what was it? Cosmo Blazer or was it Abyss Rising?
Abyss Rising, Cosmo Blazer just came out.
Yeah, got Cowboy and junk.
Yeah, Cowboy and Spellbook Tower, things of that nature.
Yeah. Had we been like in Yu-Gi-Oh at the time we did it, because he just gets doxes from judging, so he has stuff to get rid of anyway. Had we actually been in the game at the time, we would have just told the guy to bug off and laughed at him. But we didn't care. We were heavily into this game at the time, and what was the extra $10 or so to us? By the way, it was not just Cowboy. It was a few other cards too. But the point is, we sold for what, $17? I think all this stuff.
No, 19.
I think it was like $17 for like $28 worth of stuff. Maybe 30.
Yeah. And like when the list like first came out and we realized like Inzectors and windups were still gonna top. You sold your windup deck because like we were slowly.
Oh yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, like Rabbit, windup Rabbit, not Rescue Rabbit, $99.
Yeah, he jumped up from like
Yeah.
$20 to $30 to
We got
$100 overnight.
Yeah, we
so
got
we
so much
got
stuff
rid of that
from
freaking
that one
thing.
guy. Like that's when I got my BLS and whatnot.
Yeah, we sold that stuff super fast because even though we didn't admit it at the time, we were on our way out because the game was just not appealing anymore to us. And there was very little reason to be appealed by it because we had our suspicions that something was going to happen to wind-ups that upcoming September that would essentially end them. So we figured they're up really high right now. We should get rid of that stuff while we still can. And so sure enough, not only did they get hit, but a few months after that, I believe it was, Wind Up Rabbit got released in a tin.
Oh yeah. At least it wasn't bad where Dino Rabbit itself became a tin.
Yeah, that's right. That did
I
happen.
don't necessarily have anything against the whole Xyz era in general, but it certainly made decks a whole lot less interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to try to do like whatever I could with decks.
Because
I've tried making like Constellar Violons, and that requires me to synchro and exceed summon whatever level or rank I could. And with 15 slots only available,
yeah.
it's impossible.
And not only that, it's like with the first part of the era of Yu-Gi-Oh, where there was just fusions in the extra deck, anything that used fusion decks must have been either really good or had another reason for using them. So it was kind of whatever. Then synchro decks came around, and whether you agree on this or not, I found that was when it got kind of interesting. At least faster, I should say, because now decks were devoting themselves to finding ways to get their best synchros out, and they direct the field with them, and maintain a tuner monster to do it, since normal summons and whatnot.
Yeah, it's
So they made the game feel a lot more fast-paced and fun. If nothing for another reason than it was like a I don't even know what the good way to explain it is. I guess like an arms race followed by a maintenance game. So I see who can get to their main synchro the fastest and who can keep it alive for
I made
longest.
some silly deck on a whim that involved Venus of the Agents, Elector Sovereign of Birds because of that story. Used Warwolf and freaking Birdman. I had no idea what I was doing. But what it did was that I would have Elector pop out of something, Venus would make Gachi, and then I'd make Trish or Leviathan out of the Wolf, Werewolf Birdman combo.
So much.
Yeah, and it was like my greatest moment of salt was when I actually got a Trishula from a tin a week before it got banned. But at least on the bright side, the only reason I got the tin was because I just needed a second duality, and that was about it. But hey, if she comes back sooner or later, because synchros aren't becoming a thing, and it's more about the Exceed game. Because we had like some speculated list about
They're flying around. It is that season.
Yeah, where like tuner cards or like what's it called? Anything like synchro support was speculated to be coming back, kind of like.
Which I think would be a good thing, because when the Xyz came out, it was a cool idea. It felt like a cool idea at first, and then we realized something. It takes like nothing to get these things out that you weren't already able to do, and if it wasn't enough, they made it so you could have even more ways to bring these things out. Looking at you, tour guide.
Oh, tour guide.
But yeah, it's like now there's so many ways to bring those things out, and since they just have to be the same level. And usually the good ones are level 4. At least the good, easily reliable ones are level 4. I mean rank 4. That just means you just gotta get 2 guys out and you're good to go. And that's really all there is to it. And then when that guy's out, you can just start beating face for a while with no problem. And if it dies, oh well. Just bring it back with the Caesar Born or make another one.
Monster Reborn with 3 calls. Oh my
Why is
goodness.
Monster Reborn still around?
I don't know. Well, I guess we ranted long enough at a half hour.
Oh my goodness.
So-
God.
We should probably
Salt brings out so much out of us.
so much. We should probably wrap this one up at least for now. Any less?
I said everything we
I
had.
love being bad at Kagero, guys.
Any final words about Yu-Gi-Oh or things?
I'm just gonna be playing it casually, most with friends. Who's not really in the competitive scene, or they're just making interesting decks like Kevin Ross, who's an awesome dude. I'm gonna be more focused on this, both the casual, competitive, and casual.
Yeah. As for me, I would love to see Yu-Gi-Oh kind of recapture its peak again, but I know it will never happen.
Give us something aside from Zeo Plox.
Yeah, Zeal didn't help. And how about you, Elliot?
I don't think anything they can do is gonna bring me back. Cause I've already ditched all my stuff. There's no way I'm buying it all back. Not on my non-existent budget.
True. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. I mean, some people might have other opinions, or maybe you agree, but hopefully we can at least agree on that Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of declined,
Well, he was being a hero.
and declined hard.
Yeah, like half our local team half our local group converted to Vanguard. I think that says enough as to what happened to Yu-Gi-Oh.
All right, so say goodbye, everybody.